Okay, this thing's officially recording now.
All right.
Welcome, and who are you?
I am Emily Monroe.
Welcome, Emily. As I asked everyone, do you have a middle name?
I do, believe it or not. It's Anne.
Okay.
Very classic, regular lady middle name. 9 out of 10 friends probably have that middle name.
And that's fine. I do that more as a stumbling block to ask people their middle name at this point. But thank you for sharing.
Of course.
So when was the last time you rode? Because I know injury.
Yeah. I rode last. It was like October 28 or 29 probably.
Okay.
I almost nailed down the date exactly.
Okay.
Sheesh.
Okay. All right. Well, moving the story along. How did you get into riding?
Gosh, I started riding probably by necessity in college.
Okay.
Like a lot of folks, probably you commute a bit in college. I got this old Peugeot, and it was my back and forth to class bike.
Okay.
I got it hooked up at Rowlett's, and got it all taken Rowlett's back in the day. And then, life changed, and I was working across the city in a bunch of different places, and I kind of fell out of it a little while and then got back into cycling when in that height of the bike club era. Cutthroat, Slaughterama, all the different bike gangs and fixed gears, and we're really, everything was wild.
Okay.
So got into track bikes then and did a lot of that stuff, and then
Wait, track single speeds. Fixed gears.
Fixed gears.
Okay. How long was that going on? Fixed gear.
Like?
The fixed gear life. Are we talking you had
We're talking a
months?
few years.
Okay, a few years of fixed gear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Few years. It was a good time. Everybody was ripping around town. There was underground races. There was all kinds of cool stuff happening.
Yeah. When was the last time you were in a fixed gear?
Not too long ago.
Really?
I have a mini Velo that's a fixed gear bike, so it's a 20-inch track bike.
Oh, really?
20-inch wheels. It's real silly.
Okay, nice. One day I may ride a fixed gear, just so I can say that I have.
It's fun.
Either way, so you have some time riding around different groups, fixed gear. And what time were we talking this? Years roughly?
Probably early 2000s.
Post
right?
college.
Post college.
Okay.
Probably 2005-ish, 7-ish, somewhere in there.
Okay, all right.
And then bike commuted for a long time. Got to the point where I was really just not driving at all, and I was only using my bike. So sold the car. Didn't matter.
Okay.
Then, got a dog. Had to get the car for vet purposes. And, cycling got a little loose again, but I got a mountain bike.
Wait a second. Wait. You were bike commuting. You'd sold the car. How long into the bike commuting were you before you were I don't use, the car decided to, you got rid of the car? Or was there other decision that contributed to getting rid of the car as well?
The car was just getting damaged. I was living in the city, and it was getting sideswiped and messed up. And I was just I'm never driving this thing.
Yeah.
I don't really need it.
Okay.
I bike commuted for probably 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And I don't remember when I got the car between when I sold it.
Okay. But at some point, the decision was I'm not using this.
Yeah.
It's more of a nuisance. And got rid of the car.
Yeah.
And then you get a dog. And how long before? Oh shit! I need to move the dog around in more than my
immediate.
bike.
I was okay, this is a puppy, and they're insane. I have to have a car immediately, because if I have to go to the emergency vet, I can't
with the dog
just go. So immediate. It was okay, if I'm gonna get a dog, I also have to have emergency vehicle transportation.
Okay.
So let me buy a little car.
Okay. Okay. Do you recall what car you got?
I do. It was awesome. It was a Subaru Loyale. So it was a push button 4-wheel drive Subaru station wagon.
Okay.
I think it cost me $600.
Really?
It was a blast. Super fun.
That's a deal anytime.
Yeah.
I mean, But it got you from point A to B.
It sure did.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like it was great, but it got you where you need.
It was actually pretty cool. It was a real fun little romper. It was just a hoot. Exactly what you would expect a $600 car to be. It was not. Actually, it was kind of cute, but it certainly wasn't new.
Okay.
That's for sure.
So a dog, car. Do you all of a sudden, now that you have the car, do you start using the car more, or do you still stay as commuting as much as you were?
I commuted a bunch. I was living downtown and commuting into the fan for work, and it just made sense to ride a bike a lot.
Okay, yeah. Sure, right.
I remember getting hit by a car on my bike and switching for a while from car to bus.
Okay.
And back to car. It was a lot of just trying all the modes of transportation that you can.
I'm glad we have public transportation here.
Yeah.
So, okay, wait. You get hit by a car. That's some significance here. How was that? Like, you got up, you brushed this off, or was this?
Thankfully.
Okay.
This was, I managed to, I had a big messenger bag on, and I was carrying a bunch of soft stuff, which was really lucky. Mm-hmm. So I got hit by a car and flipped and landed on my back, but the messenger bag kind of kept my head off the ground.
Ooh, okay.
So it was just totally okay, but it really kind of jacked up one of my wrists.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing. I picked myself up, made sure I collected my things, and it kind of just left.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not hurt.
Okay.
My bike is fine.
Yeah.
Please don't kill anyone out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. And I left. And in retrospect, things should have gone a lot differently. But they didn't. I felt a little helpless. It was...
Yeah.
It was one of those things. I felt like I was on a work errand or something, and so I was like, I really have to go back to work.
Yeah, right. That's your priority's not all the other things that, like in hindsight, like I got a phone number, insurance, like I had to go.
I'm just gonna go.
Right. Yeah.
So.
I'm glad that was not
I'm glad
a
it
more
was
serious
not
injury.
worse. Yeah, I'm glad it was a tuck and roll.
So then you switch up and do some using transportation at that point, just for a little while.
Toot around, yeah. And then I got a mountain bike. And I started mountain biking a lot. I'd wanted to, and so I started kind of putting the pieces together to build up a mountain bike.
So up until that time, and how time do you recall, like roughly this mountain bike time? 2009, 2010, roughly?
That's a great question.
We think back, it's okay.
Yeah, I can relate it to bike shop timelines. That's about it. I can tell you what shop it came from. I know exactly where that was. So if somebody out there knows when 3 Sports was on Ridge Road, that timeline. When was that?
Ridge Road.
2010-ish, 2011.
Because we're gonna take a pause. And we're back. I had someone just try to sell me solar, and I turned them down. But either way, Emily, you just got a mountain bike.
Yep. Got a mountain bike. We're in the 20 teens, I think, or maybe.
Okay, so we'll call it that, the 20 teens.
Something like
era.
that. 20 teens, 20 tweens.
But just to orientate this, so 2005 until this time, you've got you're commuting single speed or fixed gear bikes at this point in time, right? Mm-hmm. By the way, are they drop bar bikes?
There were a handful of bikes at this point. It started with a fixed gear, and it kind of expanded from there. The fixed gear was mostly what I used for tooting around town. Okay. It was classic little narrow bars with Ori grips, Velocity DPs, some custom Braden built wheels. Mm-hmm. Bill hubs to deep V's. It was just the classic Richmond fixed gear situation.
Yeah, I've seen these things rolling around.
Yep.
And then you Frankenstein a mountain bike together, you just piecemeal, or someone built this thing for you.
That thing got built. It was cool. It was an expensive bike for me.
Okay. Was it like you got it all at once? Like, hey, can you build me a bike? And you showed up one day and they built it, or did you like buy the parts piecemeal and like
piece by piece?
Okay.
Frame and like a handful of components. You know, like got some hot insider tips on like what XT would be the year before and how SLX would be the same as the old XT, and so started to kind of like delve into the world of like, okay, this is mountain bikes. This is.
Did you have a plan? Was it just like, I think I'd like a mountain bike, or I want to do some gnarly stuff with this, let me get one?
I wanted to ride the mountain bike trails here.
Okay.
Because I thought they were super cool.
Okay.
And so I just wanted something that was going to be capable.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
And so like knew from my experience with other bikes that you were going to have to throw some money at it for a nice shock and for a nice frame and components that, as a beginner, I didn't want to buy something too nice that I couldn't afford to replace when I broke right away. Shooting for like a happy medium, something really functional and durable, but also not like clunky and too intro.
Low end. Yeah, right. Because you don't want to immediately feel like I need to upgrade in 4 months, kind of thing, right?
You don't want to outgrow it right away.
So you get this mountain bike, and what's the plan? What'd you do? Do you recall day one? Like you got this thing, you just like ride out the shop, just like.
I can't even remember the first ride. I probably was terrified. I bet I went to Belle Isle though, because I think that was like the intro loop, as you did that Lost Trail lap at Belle Isle. Okay. And that's where you learn to just like casually ride through the woods.
Did anybody go with you?
Probably.
Did you know mountain bikers, I guess?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew a handful of mountain bikers, and so I could go with them, and I could go with my partner at the time, because he was a pretty regular mountain biker.
Okay.
And he would just smoke me, gone. But that's mountain biking. Like, and it took me a while to realize that you had to have speed to go over the obstacles well. Yeah. So somebody wasn't just like straight up dropping you on a ride. It's just hard to do that. And so it's hard to maintain speed and go through obstacles and clear them well.
Not to get too deep into things, that was a person like, let me ride at your speed? Like, no, you need to ride at my speed.
It was a bit of the latter. It got kind of silly. And I did a lot of solo mountain bike rides.
Okay.
Thankfully, a friend of mine that was a very strong rider also mountain biked. So I could go with her. When she was in town on her off season, we would do mountain bike rides together. Okay. And that was very cool.
Nice. So you're getting more acquainted with the local trails, James River Park System trails and everything, which are amazing. And then do you start thinking, had you done things that was like, wow, that was an epic day of riding before that? Like, or was it like mountain biking got you into like doing dumb rides?
Mountain biking definitely got me into dumb rides.
Okay.
I did a lot of mountain biking and started just seeking out longer and longer and longer mountain bike rides.
Is it, you like the endurance? Like, I like putting out the watts. I like doing this hard effort for a long time, or is it, I like going far. Like, I like going far to a place, and it just so happens that like clearly I gotta be in shape to do it. Like,
I think
you like the pain or the location, like the
I think I just love being on a bike all day long.
Okay.
I think I'm like a sun up to sundown kind of person.
Okay.
Daylight hours.
Yeah. Okay.
Night riding is its own wonderful, wild thing on a mountain bike too, or on a gravel bike even. Yeah. But when I started to do longer mountain bike rides, I was just setting out to, crack 30 miles, crack 40 miles, crack 50 miles, do a century. Yeah. And I think that there was a lot of changing in my cycling habits around that. There was a long haul trucker set up as a gravel bike that came into play that I just put a ton of miles on.
Wait.
It's a Surly, like a touring bike, but because it's a Surly, you can fit pretty wide tires on there.
Okay. Longer distance. Okay. All right. So you have this mountain bike, and you're put in longer and longer rides on this thing. Can you think of? Did you plan like an epic ride, or did it just like happen one day? You just like kept riding, and now it's like 90 miles.
I planned it.
Okay.
I was getting annoyed that I could never seem to crack 50 miles on my mountain bike.
Okay.
Around town.
Okay.
Like door to door ride.
Mm-hmm.
Leave my house, ride,
Yeah.
hit the parks, get home, hit stop. I just kept running into these like weird little things like, oh, it's getting dark or it's going to start to rain in a minute and I'm going to have to bail out of the trails.
Yeah.
And so I got annoyed about it and finally cracked the 50 and then was like, I bet I could do a century if I rode to Pocahontas in the middle of this. Mm-hmm. And so took 3 stabs at it, finally cracked 100.
Yeah. Nice. Which way did you go? Did you take, not you remember all the roads, but did you take, is Ironbridge? Did you take Ironbridge down or did you take the other way around?
I took the longer way around.
Okay.
Braden has a great route for getting to Pocahontas. Mm-hmm. That's mostly back roads and neighborhood cuts.
Okay.
So you zigzag a lot, but you're not on that busy stretch of road. It would have been a little quicker maybe, but this one also puts you out right at the courthouse lot. Ooh, almost right there. You come out at Orange Market. So it's maybe 14 miles.
Okay.
You land at Orange Market, you grab a snack, and then you drop into Pocahontas.
Okay. Nice. I may have to ask about that route. That's a mountain bike friendly route, not gravel bike?
It's totally gravel bike.
Really? Mm-hmm. I may have to look at that route then. Okay. All right. So you managed to get a 100-mile ride in, including some riding around town and then, or trails, local trails, and then ride away out to Pocahontas. Did you do a lap in Pocahontas as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what seals the deal. You have to ride at least 20 miles at Pocahontas,
right,
and
yeah,
then you can be out.
And what's the thought then? Like you get that, that mysterious, like, or that weird, like we have to do a 100-mile kind of ride. And do you think like, this was awesome, I need to do more of these? Or was like, that was dumb and like, I should have
I loved it. And then I decided that all of my friends could probably do it much faster than I did it. And I was going to make it into a race.
Okay.
And so that's where MountainCat came from.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I thought it would be a hilarious race. It would be horrible, but also awesome because it's such a long day on a bike. Not a lot of people want to do that.
Yeah, 100 miles off-road, zigzagging through the neighborhoods in some kind of way. Yes, that would be a lengthy ride.
It's a heck of a day.
Returns. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how did that become just like, you convinced some friends to do it like the next year or something like that? Or okay.
Yeah, my buddies were like, "We just rode 100 miles on your mountain bike," and I was like, "Yeah, it was shockingly cool.
Yeah,
like pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I ate a bunch of snacks. I
right?
had 3 lunches. Like it was great, like cool day.
Yeah, so much food can be justified.
So many turtles. You're just like having a great day of it.
Okay. So then, so next year they, some friends decide to do this MountainCat thing. And they were like, yeah, this is cool. It was like, Emily, why? Like,
yeah, they were like, this was horrible. We loved it. It went pretty good. The first year was so hot.
Yeah.
It almost hit 100.
Yeah.
And it was a very hard day for folks. That ride back from Pocahontas will just like crush your spirit because you're just in the sun. Mm-hmm. So it kind of fries you. But it was good. It was pretty well received. People loved it and hated it and wanted to do it again. So I just kind of popped off from there.
That your first 100-mile ride on the mountain bike, was that year 1 of mountain bike life? Or was it like year 2 or something like that?
It was way further into it. There was a lot of cycling time in that mix. Okay. Yeah. Initially mountain biking, I think I started pretty small. I would do a JRPS lap. Mm-hmm. My usual was like JRPS with 1 bonus feature. Mm-hmm. This was when Poop Loop didn't exist yet.
Okay. Yeah.
The East End trails weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
So JRPS was kind of what you had in Forest Hill Park. So you would go do that North Bank Buttermilk lap, maybe hit Forest Hill Park, maybe hit Dogwood Dell.
Yeah. And so this is like a couple years into you mountain biking. I feel like I've skipped some things. I feel like there's some stories.
There's some stories in the mix. Okay. There's like a whole gravel bike world that happened, and a lot of the long distance endurance rides really came from that.
The gravel bike.
And then, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of long distance rides there.
So mountain bike, and then another bike happens. A gravel bike happens, and somewhere in there. And
a different mountain bike happened.
Oh my God. Okay.
So there's some timeline. The old mountain bike was a 26er.
Okay.
And she was old, and the suspension was
Wait.
tired.
Okay. And it's me admitting that I'm mostly a roadie, right? When you say 26er, that is referring to the wheel size in some kind of way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So a cool mountain bike, a nice one, high end for what it was, but also still a 26-inch hardtail.
Okay.
And so I wanted to upgrade. I was browsing Craigslist. I was riding my gravel bike a lot.
Okay.
And I wanted to get a different mountain bike that was a little bit more capable. And I was going to go to North Carolina one weekend to camp and got rained out. So stayed home, was kind of chilling on the couch, sipping coffee, browsing Craigslist, and a surly karate monkey popped up in West Virginia.
Wait, sorry, say that name again.
A karate monkey.
Okay, all right, just making sure I heard that right. Karate monkey, okay.
The guy had it set up as a single speed, and he was selling it for a crazy cheap price.
Okay.
So I emailed him, and I was like, hey, I'll drive up today. Like, my weekend plan gets canceled. And he responded pretty quickly and was amenable. So I made coffee to go and threw the dogs in the car and drove to West Virginia and bought a mountain bike. And
Nice. Okay.
got my first single speed mountain bike. And then that's what I just kept riding. I passed on the OG mountain bike to a new rider that needed a bike.
Okay, nice.
And then had this karate monkey. It was a 29er.
And then that's where more epic rides continue on the karate monkey, which is a fabulous name, and I'm probably going to say that 5 more times.
It was good.
Okay. Do you go out of town for rides? Are you still you're riding local at this point? Before it's kind of somewhere between before MountainCat. You're still learning the trails.
I have this a touring bike that's set up as a gravel bike.
Okay.
Like probably to the best.
Yeah.
It's a 26-inch wheel size, old, surly.
Okay.
It has rim brakes, but it has a dynamo, so I can just kind of keep riding, and have lights at night that I don't have to worry about. So I've been riding this bike like crazy. I'm getting longer and longer and longer distance rides, doing like pretty regular 200 Ks, putting in some big miles on it.
Yep. Okay.
And then I get the karate monkey, and the long miles just transfer to that. That's when I start pushing more on the mountain bike. If I can do this on the road, well, I could do this on the mountain bike too.
Sure. Yep. Okay.
And that's how I bullied all my friends into doing MountainCat, was because I told them that if I did 100 miles on a single speed, then they could definitely do it, and so much quicker.
Yeah. How many people did you convince to do MountainCat the first time?
I think it was close to like 30-ish people.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Oh my God.
It was wonderful. Buds came down from DC.
Yeah.
It was really a fun crowd. It was a good mix of folks.
Nice. And then it's happening every year.
It has been, yeah. We took off 2020 because everybody,
pandemic,
wild year. But it has happened yearly since.
Nice. Okay. I may have to look. I've heard of MountainCat prior to you mentioning this, and I don't know if I probably saw it on Strava or something like that. A few people participating in that, and I was like, that seems ridiculous. But I may have to look into it more now.
Check it out. It's pretty silly.
Skipping ahead. How'd you get your injury? Not biking related?
Yes, unfortunately, biking related. We were on a gravel bike ride, and we were riding the East End trails, and there was a section of briar hanging across one of the trails, and I thought it would not be an issue to ride through it, past it. A little uphill, so I just kind of like aimed for the gap between the briars and the tree, but the briars caught my handlebars and fully turned my front wheel. So I fell, unclipped, got a foot down, felt a pop, and then was on the ground. And so I got up, and my foot felt just kind of like it wasn't really there.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm standing, I'm fine. Let me collect myself, make sure I didn't phone out of the pocket or anything. Yeah. I was with a bunch of friends. We were doing a very early morning ride, hiked up out of the woods, and almost passed out. I was like, whoa, my body is not stoked on what just happened. Yeah. Sat down for a little while, got it together, rode home. Got home and was like, man, I wonder if I can unclip. Everything feels kind of numb but weird. And very, very, very slow and careful. Turned my foot in the motion of unclipping and almost passed out again. And I was like, I can't unclip. slid my foot out of the shoe and then riced it for the weekend.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure because I could stand on it.
Yeah.
I didn't think I had broken a leg.
Yeah.
But I had broken my leg. So I spent a few days walking around on it thinking it was fine, thinking it was a really bad rolled ankle.
Mm-hmm.
And then went to the doctor because the swelling wasn't going away. And that's what Dr. Google tells you to do, is keep an eye on the swelling. And if it doesn't go away after 3 days, you need to go to the actual doctor.
Okay. And so legit broken leg.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I know. Such a stinker. I was like, man, I'm going to miss the last days of fall.
How long? What's your downtime? What's your like off bike?
Actually, I feel like I'm super lucky. I got 5 weeks in a boot.
Okay.
Which seems like a cakewalk compared to what it could be. I didn't have to have surgery. I'm just in a boot, and
so it's 5 weeks in the boot. But then, how long before you're advised to like use that leg?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We'll find out on December 8th.
Okay. All right.
I'm interested. I'm hopeful that I can like. I'm trying not to get my hopes up too high because I don't want to get my feelings hurt about it. It would be cool to be out of the boot. Right. And it would be even cooler to be able to ride a trainer. So we'll see. My hopes, my best case scenario, big hopeful, fingers crossed, is that I get to the doctor. Everything is looking pretty good, pretty healed up. It already feels different, better-ish. You know, there's things.
Feelings, yeah.
The feelings that's going on, it's healing. Like I can cross my leg and it doesn't hurt. That's new. That's like a week-old new cool
Small
thing
wins,
to do again.
Yeah.
So it would be really cool if I get there, boot comes off. I can do some gentle trainer rides and hit PT to get flexibility going again. Okay. So that's my hope. We'll see what happens.
Okay. I hope you get the best prognosis possible.
Cross some fingers. We'll see.
You mentioned a trainer. Is that a recent thing, or is it one you've had for a while?
I have a pretty basic Wahoo trainer. Yeah, I have a classic ye old school one, and then I have a smart trainer.
Oh, okay.
I don't use it too often. I'm a real Four Seasons rider, but you know, it comes in handy sometimes. You know, like it has helped to have one, whether I'm just lending it to other people or. You know, occasionally, I feel like every year I go through a phase where I'm like, that's it. I'm grouchy. I'm riding the trainer. Like it rains really hard for a week and a half and I'm crotchety and mean. And I'm like, if I don't get on the bike, my friends are all going to fire me. Yeah. And so I'll do a couple trainer rides and like watch some YouTube series or something. And then I'm just like, I cannot do this anymore. Like I'm out. I'm going to go outside again.
Okay. All right. And that's fine. I'm
it happens.
I enjoy riding on the trainer.
I wish I was better. I wish I was better at it.
You know, if you're not like, I need to do a structured workout to really work on my speed or X, Y, and Z, right? If that's not really the goal, and if you are willing to ride in inclement weather in some degree, then it doesn't serve as the best purpose, right? And nobody wants to plan for an injury. Like, let me have the trainer in case I break a thing. You know, then mostly if you're not thinking like inclement weather and then like I need to do something structured that's like it's the same parameters every single time, then like it's not as beneficial. Yeah. But I'm glad you will have some option when it is safe to do so.
I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever comes at me, I think.
Okay. All right. Thankless through the winter because you're all season rider, but like, yes, it's inclement weather time.
If it was summer, I would be like losing my mind. I would be having the worst FOMO every single day. Right. So I had a great summer. You know, I'm a little sad to miss like the good riding that gets you really acclimated to the cold because I'm going to go outside in the worst months where it's going to be cold and gray and, you know, a high of 36 and not a drop of sun in the sky, you know. Yeah. And I'm going to have to come from the cozy temperature indoors, like straight to that. So it'll be hard.
Have you always been a rider of all four seasons? Like even during your commuting time, were you just like, it's raining, I'm cool?
Commuting, I still would because it just was like, I have to go to work.
You got to go. Okay.
I do not go to work. But so, you know, it wasn't enough of a commute ever to really shut me down that much. And it certainly tapers off a lot in the winter, especially because a lot of what I really like to do is mountain biking until if it rains a couple days in a row or if there's bad freeze thaw, you're just not going to be on your mountain bike.
Okay. And so again, I live a roadie life, and so I understand that with the different trail systems, the managed trail systems, right? They're like at a certain point, like they're closed, right? Pocahontas particularly, like it's closed under certain like.
It's all about the type of soil.
Okay.
That you have that you're riding. When you have a clay-based soil like Pocahontas, the Courthouse Road trails, they're all clay-based. So in the summertime, they're like hard-packed, super fast.
Yeah.
In the winter, the clay holds water and freezes and creates this like freeze-thaw cycle. Okay. Early in the morning, the clay is all like raised. As it freezes, it expands.
Okay.
And if you ride it as it starts to thaw, it kind of shatters the clay and like essentially creates ruts and mud holes that are just a ton of work to repair. So you either ride really early in the morning when everything is still completely frozen. And as soon as the trails start to thaw a little bit, you leave. You don't ride anymore.
Okay.
So it's all about the soil. So anywhere that's clay based, like buttermilk retains a lot of water because of the elevation and the streams that naturally form or that sort of live naturally on that side of the trail systems. North Bank is real heavy clay based. So again, it hits freeze thaw really bad. So you kind of have to seek out soil that's a bit more loamy, that drains better. So maybe on better elevation.
Okay. North Bank clay. And the courthouse trails there.
The courthouse stuff is all real pretty clay based because it's a lot of like managed and built trails. Okay. Morgan and Lakeview, those are very like loamy soil, lots of like ups downs, so it drains well. But I think those stay almost pretty rideable.
Yeah, year round.
Relatively, yeah.
Okay. And I'm only not recently. I mean, but just this year because I got the gravel bike, and so now I pay attention to riding off road and then the surfaces and so I pay more attention where I'll see the notices from RVA more, the posts from Pocahontas, trails closed today kind of thing. And so I think about that more when I'm like, I'm going to do a gravel ride. Is the surface I'm going to go on, is it just going to be like mud, or something like that? I've not gotten there yet where I'm like, I'm going to have one of those rides where I'm like hike a bike and mud and just like all kinds of stuff. So what's the messiest ride you've been on that you recall? Or at least do you recall a story of like a really messy ride?
Oh man. There have been some real mud bogs. I try to avoid it, to be honest, because I know that if I'm on trails and I'm on mud like that, I am doing a big disservice. I am in trouble.
But I'm sure there's been a ride somewhere.
There's been rides. There's so much. I love to ride Mud Mart. I love to ride that section of dirt bike land on the south side, kind of no man's land. Mud Mart, the pit.
I'm not familiar with this. Okay.
It is a little section of land on the south side where dirt bikes and ATVs all ride a lot.
Okay.
It's been a trail system that's been ripping for years. And it's fun through there, but it is a bit mud boggy.
Okay.
So you do get a lot of it's very slippery, very opaque mud, so you don't really know how deep the puddles are. They could be like hub deep or they could be an inch deep. It's just a total guess.
Okay.
I feel like we've done some winter rides that have just taken a real sideways turn. Yeah. And you're just in some kind of crazy slosh land. You just ride through it, slog through it. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I did the Dirtbags 100, there were long stretches of mud pit through a tree farm. And it was just a hoot. I mean, you couldn't get around it. Yeah. There was tight forest on either side. Mm-hmm. And so you were just like walking directly through the center of like a 200-foot long mud puddle.
The Dirtbags 100, that's the name of the group. That's the name of the
I think that's maybe their Instagram name.
Okay.
But the original ride was called the Dirtbags.
It was 100. Okay. 100K or 100 miles?
100 miles, but it was really closer to 80 miles until it kind of got refined over the years.
Okay.
And cracked 100.
Which, I guess I can look up the route, but like this went like how far, like what direction kind of did this thing go, dude?
Initially, when you would ride it, you would leave Richmond and go out the back side of the poop loop and go through kind of some sort of south side industrial scramble up this real wonderful, terrible hill beside 95. You would kind of parallel 95 through Chesterfield until you got to Dutch Gap, Henricus Park.
Okay.
You would take a lap at Dutch Gap and then kind of cook it through Chesterfield County on a series of weird cuts till you got to the horse side of Pocahontas.
Okay.
You would cross Pocahontas and then squiggle your way back into the city on that route I mentioned to you. That was a very nice way to get home from Pocahontas.
Right.
And then land back in the city. You would come back onto like familiar land, just like covered in mud and just like hungry and like tired and sweaty. You're just like looking like a mess, but like back in the city suddenly.
I would imagine that could be I could imagine you're on these unfamiliar roads and then like all of a sudden you pull out and like, oh shit, I know where I'm at. Yeah.
I'm like 2 miles from home. I look crazy right now.
I'm looking at a map to see roughly, okay, I can see how far south that goes to get to Dutch Gap. And then make its way west and then come back up. Okay, all right. I try to look at maps to try to create routes when I can, so I may look at that some more later. And so you don't, again, this goes into the ride in inclement weather. You don't shy away like, is it gonna be a little rain? You're still gonna go ride.
I'm kind of a baby these days. I'll admit it. Cold rain, it's not my thing. I'll ride really cold and I'm fine with it.
Okay.
And I'll ride in summer rain and I'm okay with it. But when it starts to be that like
winter rain,
it's not really fun for me anymore.
Are you saying at one time it was? Or just like it didn't matter?
Yeah, like it didn't matter. I think the commuting, you just kind of did it and you just were like, yeah, this is the part of it. I know I'm going to get home in 6 miles and I'm going to be out of these clothes and it's not going to matter. Yeah,
but a leisurely ride that you don't have to do, maybe not.
It's a rare day that I'm going to choose to go do like a 40-mile loop in cold rain. I don't know. It's just, I'm sort of baby.
Okay. That's all right.
It happens. We all have limits.
Yeah, you've done it.
We all got our boundaries.
Epic rides. You don't have to make all of them epic.
I'll own it. I know.
What do you take with you on a ride? Let's go to mountain bike ride, and it's going to be, we'll say, under 30 miles, right? What do you take with you on a ride?
Probably 1 to 2 bottles of water.
Okay.
30 miles on a mountain bike is still a good amount. So probably I'm going to stop for coffee in the middle of it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Unless I'm just like, hey, I got to do 30 miles and then I got to go home. I have these like 5 things to do today. At which point I'll throw like a little snack bar in my pocket.
Okay. All right. What is your drink of choice with coffee? Is there a coffee like, I'm going to get this?
Any coffee beverage in cold weather is just like glorious.
Really?
Yeah, there's nothing better than just like sort of stopping in the middle of a long ride when you're cold and just getting a cup of coffee.
Okay.
But we have so many good roasters here that like we have bajillions of good options. So like you can get really fancy with it.
Okay.
Get something nice.
Okay. And I don't drink coffee, but I can understand
it's a good tradition.
You know, the comfort of that. Coffee mid-ride. So 2 bottles. Now, say you're going on like, just go with MountainCat, right? Like, what are you gonna take with you for this thing?
That one's a different bird. I'm gonna pack lunch.
Okay.
I have run the gamut on weird foods on rides. Sometimes it's pizza. Sometimes it's I'm vegetarian, so like I'll say chicken sandwich, but I mean like a fake chicken sandwich. Okay. Sometimes I pack pierogies. A burrito. Okay. You know, like if it's going to be a long ride like that, I'm going to need something substantial. Okay. And there's a lot of options for stopping for food, but also sometimes it's really hard to find something substantial at a gas station if you're vegetarian. So if I need like some real food, I don't want it to be like a jumbo bag. Well, that's not true. I love a jumbo bag of French fries, but like, if it needs to be something bigger than that, it needs to be maybe something that I pack myself.
Okay. All right. How long have you been a vegetarian? Always?
No, I kind of picked it up again recently in the last maybe 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
I was vegetarian as a young punk kid, and then kind of fell out of it for a while.
Okay.
My body felt tired, and I felt like I needed the protein, or something was felt off, and so I switched it up for a while, and then went back to it.
Okay. All right. Just curious, right? And you're right. Yes, if you're shopping for snacks and then finding enough protein at a convenience store, that's just not like it's not Slim Jims, right? Because that's not going to work.
It's not going to work, unfortunately.
Oh my God, what would there's like Cliff Bars?
It gets so old so fast. Banana and cheese is a favorite. 7-Eleven has sharp cheddar. So you can get a sharp cheddar. You can get a banana.
Yeah.
I feel like I have really specific gas stations like benchmarked across Virginia because they have good potato wedges. So if a gas station has potato wedges, like sign me up. It's on. It's on. And there's some gas stations that even have PBJs. Some of them are really awesome.
What?
So you just have to find the right ones. It's like a best convenience store award moment.
I feel like I need to see a gas station with a PBJ out there.
It's cool. It's very infrequent, but they exist.
Not that they're complicated or anything like that, but it's
it's just not an option. Yeah, it's cool.
Curious about the snacks and things like that. Do you take electrolytes and?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a brand of choice of electrolytes? Not that it's super important, but
I vary a lot. Sometimes if it's convenient to scratch, I pack scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I like Noon a lot because it's lower sugar.
Okay.
And it packs well. So if I'm going to go on like a really, like a big long day or a tour or something like that, chances are I'm bringing Noon because it's just packable.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit less mess.
Okay. All right. I didn't find Noon to be super enjoyable. The 3 times that I tried the different flavors, but I always thought of Alka-Seltzer, and then it just
it rubs people the wrong way sometimes. I don't mind it so much.
Yeah. But yeah, if that's
it works,
right? If it works, then that's the thing you should continue using. Because Noon is that you can go to Kroger and get Noon tablets, which is weird, dissolvable tablets. So these things you take on a ride. You discuss your injury. Mm-hmm. Are there thoughts of new bikes?
I just new biked myself big time.
Really?
So I'm cut off for a while. I'm always like looking for some project, but I'm forbidden. I can't. It has to be one in, one out at this point.
Okay. All right. So wait, what was the new bike?
I got a new gravel bike and I got a new mountain bike.
And a new mountain bike.
I really went hard.
Okay.
Oof.
This gravel bike, what you do with it? What are you doing with the gravel bike? But what's epic you've done on the gravel bike, if anything? Like, what's been your longest ride on this new gravel bike?
Well, this new gravel bike is really new.
Oh, it's new.
It's
okay,
new.
Okay, it's
both
still
of these bikes are really new.
Okay, all right.
So
future plans for these bikes.
Yeah, future plans for sure.
Okay.
Big dumb stuff to come.
Okay, all right. Yeah, right. Everything recovers. And
it'll be great.
Okay, all right. Oh.
I have full faith in this leg. I'm like, we're going places. Don't worry.
Yeah. Have there been other injuries? I've not really asked this until
I've been so lucky.
Yeah.
I don't even want to say it. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been super lucky.
This is pretty intense here.
I got a little bit of a rotator cuff tear.
Okay.
And I exacerbated it by continuing to mountain bike.
You didn't give it a resting period?
I didn't give it a rest. And I sought help through a super skilled PT.
Yeah.
Who basically told me I could do all the gravel riding and road riding I wanted, but it might be smart to lay off the mountain bike. Right, and he was like, see how it feels. And I crashed really hard in a rock garden.
After
this discussion. And just landed flat out like Superman.
Ooh. Right,
I sat there for a while and I was just like, all right, I have to stop mountain biking. I have to stop. Yeah. This was totally unplanned and unavoidable. I've cleared this rock garden a million times and I just crashed in it.
Yeah.
And I am on the ground on my face. I cannot do this anymore until this shoulder is healed.
Yeah.
So I continued to do PT and just really put all that energy into gravel bikes.
Okay. All right. Yes. Injuries heal.
They do.
Right. Yes, we want them to fully heal if we do things or do extreme things again. So, wait. Do you still have a single speed?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that come out the corral every so often?
Absolutely. Yeah. Single speed mountain bike might be my favorite.
Yeah.
I told myself I wasn't really going to get a geared mountain bike until I got a full suspension bike.
Okay.
And then I would just like fully, I feel like it's cheating. It's like full suspension and it's geared. I'm like,
okay.
But I love single speed mountain biking. It is the best.
Is there, because there's two mountain bikes, it sounds like, two mountain bikes, right?
Mm-hmm.
The single speed and you've got a geared mountain bike.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When is it, what kind of ride is it that you pick the single speed mountain bike? And then what's one like, now I'm going to take the geared one? Like what's is there a deciding factor? Like
I still am kind of in that like new bike excitedness where the full suspension has been coming out like a lot.
Okay. Right. Okay.
And so otherwise the single speed was everything.
Okay.
Single speed, like multi-day tours, single speed around town rips, traveling in other states up and down, riding at places like it's great at everything.
Okay.
You just change your gearing and you go.
Okay. You mentioned multi days. When was your first multi-day ride? Or do you recall some of the early ones? Let's go with that.
I do. I started some of this gravel bike stuff. I really wanted to do longer and longer rides, but I had to get faster to basically, like, my little dogs are my world. So I was like, man, I cannot be gone all day for these dogs. I'm going to have to get faster at these rides because I need to go home to take care of my dogs.
Yeah.
They can't just sit at home for 10 hours like that. So I would line up dog sitters and try to go for longer and longer rides. Like if I was going to do a 160, I had a dog sitter that would come and let him out. And so I feel like I started doing some of this overnight stuff and packed the dogs with me on a couple trips.
Really?
I feel like I can't remember what my first shakedown run was.
Wait. Took the dog with you on the ride?
Yeah, the dogs would chill in the panniers.
Oh,
I had panniers on the front and they would just sit.
Wow.
They're really good little dogs. They've gotten older and we don't really do that anymore. You know, we can't really do it anymore.
Yeah,
but
they're bigger dogs.
As younger pups, they were really good at it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That's interesting. I think I just saw something about like how to go bike packing with your dogs. I was like, I'm not going to read that article because I don't have dogs. Yeah.
It's a lot of extra work, but
you did it.
You can do it.
So you were doing some rides, but you weren't going. You were still you got your dogs to take care of, so you weren't just out there all the time. But you were able to take the dogs.
I was able to take the dogs on a couple trips, and then I think I lined up some overnighters. You know, like maybe to Chip Oaks or some other parks. I can't remember what my first overnighter was.
So was it just like, oh, I know of a park that I can camp at. I'll ride there, camp, and come back? Or was it just like, I know some wooded area. I'll just stay there in the woods and then come back? A
little bit of both. One of the first times was just some road camping where I wasn't supposed to camp. Okay. I just rode out there I did some around town rides to make sure everything was going to stay on my bike well.
Oh, right.
You know, some shakeout runs. Yeah. You know, you like go out on the Cap Trail for a long time and come back and you know, ride the Reedy Creek Fire Road because if your stuff can jiggle around on that concrete stuff, then you're probably going to be fine.
Okay. That is my new camp stove.
Oh, heck yeah.
And the little black thing there.
Cool.
This little squeeze bottle is a filter water bottle, and then I just threw out all the boxes before you got here of all the camping stuff that I've gotten.
Oh, cool.
So there's what's the brand now? Is a tent. There's a tent from a brand that's not Sea to Summit, Big Agnes.
Nice.
Big Agnes tent. There's a quilt, sleeping quilt. There's a sleeping pad. There's a ground cover for the tent.
Awesome.
Either way, so I need to do some shakedown rides of my own. I need to put it on the bike and and a seat pack, giant seat pack from Apodora. So yes, there's some thought of doing some bike packing. So I'm working in stages of like.
You're on a fast track. You have the important things. You have the sleepable stuff. So the rest is just easy. You can dying out of a gas station if you need to. You know what I mean? You have the important things covered.
You know, do you feel like you're, so I'm I want to plan all kinds of things. I want to know the route. I want to know if there's convenience stores on that route. Like, what's the situation with the campground?
Yeah.
Do you feel you are, like, you need to have that level of detail with the ride? Or just like, hey, I'm just going to go ride and like, I'm going to stay the night. Cool. We'll figure it out as we go.
It's a little bit of both, but for the most part, I've had enough like, oh no moments or been on enough rides that have gotten really sideways.
Yeah.
That these days, if I'm going to be gone for a few days, probably the routes I'm doing are just complicated enough that I need to know what's coming at me.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of the multi-day trips that I plan these days are backwoods, in the middle of the desert or in the middle of West Virginia in the woods.
Okay.
There's no cell phone service.
Yeah.
And there's no convenience stores.
Okay.
So it's a lot of like, hopefully I find dinner at this Dollar General.
Hopefully. Okay. All right.
So these days when I get into some of these tours, I definitely plan it out. I love mapping so much. It's like one of my favorite things is just like digging really deep. Mm-hmm. Like I will call a convenience store to make sure they still exist. You know what I mean? Like especially if I'm taking people with me.
Right. Yeah.
The big deal is making sure that like I can fend for myself pretty well.
Yeah.
Pretty okay. But if I'm like, if somebody else is coming with me, I need to know that they're going to be okay as well.
Steps, yeah.
So, you know, I'll map really hard. I'll set myself up well with cues. I've learned ride with GPS stuff pretty well. Mm-hmm. And so I know I've learned a lot.
Okay. Trial and error. A lot of trial and error.
A lot of trial and error. And a lot of tours where you're relying on your computer to tell you everything. Mm-hmm. So you need your cues. You need custom like pop-ups and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So you can study a map and create waypoints and look at it physically as much as you want. But if that doesn't translate into the file that's going to pop up on your computer,
your bike computer, yeah.
If you can't tell how far it is till your next water source.
Ooh, okay. Because I mentioned this filter and you just mentioned water, have there been like drinking from a stream?
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You survived it, so that's encouraging.
Knock on wood. No giardia yet.
Because I buy this thing and like I was looking at reviews of like what's the most convenient option for if I need to drink some water from a stream because the filter's like in the cap. Mm-hmm. If I need to drink water from a stream or from a camp that's like the water is potable. I think it's just like it's not quite drinkable. It's drinkable. Potable is drinkable. So I've seen non-potable.
Non-potable is your
non-potable. I've seen a few campsites where it's non-potable. So I'm just like, I don't think my first like bike pack is gonna be like so off the grid that I like won't have drinkable water. But it's me like planning ahead, and there was a crap ton of sales, so like I just
perfect
got
timing.
one.
I love those for big rides in the mountains too. Yeah. Because you can go if you pay attention to your elevation, don't drink near cattle land. Mm-hmm. I have like a personal rule that I'm just not going to try to, unless it's a dire emergency, I'm not going to filter below 1,000 feet.
Okay.
But on some of these, if you're starting to do more elevation and you're training for longer rides, like big miles, 100 plus, 120 plus, in the mountains, pack a filter. Because then it takes this is like part of COVID riding was learning how to be really self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that you weren't really in trouble. You weren't having to go into stores. So just pack a filter. Even on like a 60 in the mountains in the summertime, when it's just hot as can be and you might not see a store.
Yeah.
It's great for that. Just check your elevation. Make sure you're not near cows. Okay. And just gauge the stream health.
And you say this to the cows because like just the
waste
of the cows. Okay, getting in the water source. Okay,
and like a lot of the cattle farming just is really bad on the land. You don't want that.
Right. I will keep that in mind. And again, all of that's most of my rides have been road. Like so, I know there's convenience store. I know there's road there. And like Google Maps will show me the whole route kind of thing, street level. But as I do more of these off-road things. Like I rode in Bedford went for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, went to go see family in Huddleston, snuck in a ride Thursday morning in Bedford. And so it was a gravel route that somebody else had sent to me, but there was a bunch of areas that were back roads that Google Maps couldn't show me. Like it didn't recognize like this was a road kind of thing. And the street wasn't street level view. So I was like, okay, I hope this is like it's still a road.
Could be anything.
And most of it was chill, but thankfully I packed enough on this like 40-ish mile, like that I didn't feel like I was going to need to stop anywhere. And there weren't any convenience stores. Like it was just like in
That's
the hills.
That's kind of how it is out there. There's not much. You're kind of lucky if you find one. You may ride for a day or two between stores. So it's a lifesaver.
Filter.
It's great. And it takes, my partner gets really, he gets really nervous about water scarcity and it'll stress him out.
Yeah.
And so if he just brings a filter, it just peels off a layer of stress.
Yeah. And so, okay, thank you. That helps. That helps.
Yeah, you don't have to use it. You can just pack it with you.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing to have.
Okay. Yeah, I have to, hopefully I won't need it. But I felt like I might as well get it. One, again, sales were what promoted.
Yeah.
Like it's on sale. Why not? It may come in handy. And I've drank from it and I haven't died yet for my own tap water. So,
well, I tell you, there's something really extra great and cool about drinking out of a stream. I don't know what it is. It's just being a little bit wild, I think.
I mean, I
Feels
suppose
pretty
like
cool.
This didn't go bad, like, right, kind of thing. I think, yes, if I was able to drink from a stream, I would also feel something like this didn't go bad. Like I didn't die from dysentery, like or whatever. Like just
out west, there's cattle tanks, and those get really iffy.
Yeah.
Because they're just cattle water sources.
Yeah.
And so they get yucky, and so you may have to scoop water in a bandana or like really filter out sediment and algae and floaters. So if I have drank from cattle tanks and have lived, then
others can do so as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got this.
All right. Okay.
Streams are probably way better, especially mountain streams. It's like, from the source.
We'll keep that in mind. Cattle tanks. Either way, we're back again. And so bikepacking. And we talked about water filtration, which is good. So I'm interested to see how if there will ever be a drinking from a stream situation, which I'm like, maybe there will. Anyway, that's more off-road than my first one will ever be. But if you were going to recommend a ride from home, because we're here in Richmond, a ride from home, camp somewhere, and come back, like what would be your recommendation?
If you're doing a shakedown run and you just want to see how it goes,
right? Yeah,
you just want to set up your tent somewhere else and get used to your bags and stuff like that, just go to Pocahontas.
Okay.
It's close. It's high amenity. It's not so far that if something really gets crazy, someone couldn't come and snag you.
Okay.
It's a great shakedown run. If you want to get wilder with it, go sleep in the middle of the woods somewhere. Go out to the East End and sneak in something. But for the most part, I would say just go with kind of what's accessible. Pocahontas isn't very far away. Yeah. So if there's like any uncertainty or like anything that's stressing you out, it's close enough to just really alleviate that stress. Chip Oaks is a little further.
Chip Oaks?
And you can make it a really interesting ride too. You can ride the Cap Trail most of the way there. Or you can get really creative with it and put yourself on a much longer ride.
Right.
Use your favorite East End roads to get to Williamsburg instead of taking the Cap Trail. And then take the ferry and go across to Chip Oaks.
So if you have to take that ferry, I always thought that I think there was one ride I was going to be on to take the ferry. And I've gone to Jamestown plenty of times. I've seen the ferry docked. And I've just not taken the ferry ride.
It's super cool.
Yeah. To put that on the list of
do it. Make it your first one, or
ferry ride.
It just depends on what you want your first one to be. If you're looking for like an epic ride, then like deeply plan it and do it. But you can also do something a little closer to home to just alleviate any stress and worry.
My first test this stuff out is to ride somewhere and sleep at a hotel. Like first, am I okay not going home at a ride? Like it's that's where I'm at with this.
Heck yeah.
Because I've only done that once. I did Bike MS, and then that was like a luxury situation because we were in a really nice hotel. So again, can I ride somewhere and not come back home? Then I've not camped since I was a child.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, so like I need to scale back. I am not an outdoorsy person, like hands down. Like I would much rather be inside with my computer and AC. But because of the gravel bike, much more interested in doing it. So anyway, at some point I will go camping, and I got a nice tent, so I need to test it out.
The state park is a great route because there's power and water at the sites. And if you haven't camped in a while, I like solo trips a lot.
Okay.
But sometimes as a woman, just in the middle of nowhere, it can be a little scary.
Sure.
And I'll have a knife, but
good to take protection.
That's
Right,
what I got. If I'm going into like West Virginia, I might have bear mace. I should have bear mace.
Yeah.
But get comfortable sleeping outside in a safe space. Sleep in your backyard.
Yeah, that's
Sleep in your backyard one night. That way you can just test the tent and see how it works. And then go to a state park that you feel safe at. And get used to the sounds of animals that come up. Because it'll happen. You'll hear something crunching. And if you're not accustomed to it, it'll keep you up all night. And it'll make your next day's ride hard. So get comfortable being outside.
I agree. Yes, getting comfortable. Yes, I'll be sleeping in the backyard first. In fact, I'll probably be taking a nap in the backyard during the daytime as the first test.
Yeah, do it.
First test of the tent.
Hammock it up a little bit or something,
Okay. So Pocahontas, if you're thinking like test some stuff out. Now, what's one if you're like one that's more epic, that's like out of town, but that's not like nearby, but not.
Do the Gap, the CNO and the Gap. Ride to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Take the train up to DC and ride from DC to Pittsburgh.
It's a CNO and Gap. CNO is one trail, and then the Gap is the other trail, right? Or what's the other one? Okay.
Again, it's a pretty safe space. It's a rail trail, so you've taken traffic out of the equation.
Okay.
It's you and a gravel path in the woods.
Yeah.
And often a beautiful river, and well mapped out stores and towns along the way. And it's not necessarily a super challenging.
Yeah.
That's not true. You can make it as hard as you want.
Okay,
You can.
sure.
It's rail trail. It's rail trail. So you can make it complicated. But that would just be like big mileage goals.
Okay.
So it's a great space to be outdoors, to have dedicated campsites that are, there's water pumps along the CNO,
Okay.
but a lot of them are treated with iodine, so it'll taste a little funny.
Okay. Good to know. Pumps with iodine.
There are these days anyway. They advise you to boil it or filter it.
Okay. Well, I've got the filter. CNO, Gap Trail. And I've had others mention the CNO and Gap Trail, and that's gravel kind of.
It is for the most part. Some of the parts of the CNO get a little rutted out.
Okay.
It could be double track. That can get a little yucky.
Okay.
A little bit of a divot. But for the most part, it's the same surface as that. The path around Belle Isle. It's this very finely chipped gravel.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that.
Okay. Good to know. I'm sure somebody else is going to recommend it. I may have to actually do that because
it's a good one.
Second or third recommendation of that. What was something that was like? What's a really epic multi-day that you can think of, as you can recall?
The furthest from home I did was the Monumental Loop in Arizona. New Mexico, I'm sorry. Wow. In New Mexico.
You went there and rode that night.
Flew to New Mexico and rode New Mexico to Texas to Mexico and then came back.
Wait. New Mexico to Texas to Mexico. Okay. Wow. Okay.
And it was cool. It was my first time in the doing a multi-day trip in the desert.
Okay.
So I had a lot of like water worries to squash and a lot of planning.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so how long was that in the planning stage? Like how long was that from like idea to like you actually were doing the ride?
I feel like I started thinking about doing it probably early in the year.
Okay.
And committed probably in like May or June.
Okay.
And then did it in October.
Okay.
So a lot of thinking, a lot of the people that put the route together.
Okay.
Really do an incredible job of handing you a map that has everything you need to know, where you can and can't camp, water stops, really cool things to see, stores. So you just need to take that information and process it.
Okay.
And create it into a plan that's going to work for you.
Right. How far are you going to go before you camp?
Where am I going to aim to camp? How am I going to let myself know that over 300 miles, I'm in one of the 20 sections where there's no camping allowed. It's unmarked land. Like you're just in the middle of like land management.
Yeah.
Land. You're in the desert. So there's not signs that say don't camp here.
Yeah.
But if you camp there and the ranchers find you, they're not going to be stoked. You're going to ruin it for other people.
Yeah.
And
right,
potentially get in trouble yourself.
That's not great. You did this in October or whatever that year was?
I did like 2 years ago, a year ago.
Okay. How many days do you recall? Talking like.
I think we were gonna do 5 and then shortened it to 3.
Really? Okay.
I have this like really bad habit of getting out there and just deciding to push it.
Okay.
It's just real dumb.
So wait, like you got to your end destination in 3 days instead of 5.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Not cut it short. Like
we decided to push it. There was a windstorm coming. And we didn't want to ride in like 30-mile-an-hour winds. If we could beat it. Oh, it was.
No,
we were wishing. We were looking at the forecast.
Yeah.
And we were like, man, we're gonna be in the middle of the flattest section of the ride, with the least water sources in a windstorm. So it was on our minds from the moment we left.
Yeah.
And we did like the kind of allotted mileage the first day, with maybe a little extra, and the next day we're like, we should probably start tacking on some mileage to every day.
Okay, to get it down.
And then kind of made that final decision the following day that we need to go ahead and do a 90 today and get this done.
Yeah.
Just because the storm was gnarly. You were just laughing. You know, you had bandanas on to keep the sand from just like crushing you.
Yeah. Really?
Because it just blast your face. It was wild.
How many people went?
I did it with my partner.
Okay.
There was a group of about 100 people that started, but once you started, you kind of scattered.
Okay.
And it was single speed, so you're slower on flats. So everybody strings out. There were a couple occasions that we ran into other people. There was a woman that offered up her farm as a place to stay.
Okay.
And so we camped at her farm and ran into another rider there. Okay. And then kind of same thing. We parted ways and he was going to lollygag a bit. And we were like, we got to go.
Yeah.
So we're trying to beat this storm, but I don't know if we will. So.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there like a certain time of year that was supposed to be a better time to do? Was it? So that was, so you said there were like 100 riders that did this thing. So is that just like something like an event, or was that?
It is. Okay. It's a mass depart.
Okay.
It's a big, I guess Matt throws it with a bikepacking summit as well, because there's a lot of conversation around riding and camping on lands out there. The government leases a lot of land to cattle ranchers.
Was that MAP as in M-A-A-P?
M-A-T-T.
Oh, M-A-T-T.
Matt that throws it.
Okay.
So there's a lot of conversation to be had, and there's a lot of folks putting in a ton of work to bring that kind of stuff to their area.
Okay.
And so there was like a multiple days of kind of events and conversations, a local makers market.
Okay.
There's so many cool like folks in the Southwest making frames and soft goods and handlebars. So it was a proper event.
Okay. Okay. So not just a ride. It was a whole.
It was a whole thing. There was a guy that FKT'd it. You know, it was awesome. It was cool to watch.
Okay.
Really cool folks to meet, and 10 out of 10 would go back.
Okay, nice. I may get more information about this ride. I'm quite a ways away from going out of state to do epic rides where the water sources are questionable. But it's good to know of for future.
They're there. They're waiting for you whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm quite a ways away. Okay, awesome. Do you recall your first flat?
No, but I'm sure they happened. I know they happened. I remember I remember struggling with flats. I remember getting competent at changing flats.
Okay.
Actually, and I think that was a bigger thing, being less worried about it and just being like, oh my God, if I pinch this tube, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And I remember getting a lot better at it and getting way less worried about it, and got to a point where now it's just like, oh shoot, I got a flat.
You can fix it.
I gotta fix it.
Okay.
So that was a bigger, that for me was a bigger deal.
Right.
Less worried about it.
Getting confidence, you can handle this. Okay.
Some of those old wire bead like touring tires, man, those things were like, I mean, you were gonna pop your fingers off trying to get them off the wheel. They were so hard to get off.
Yeah. I guess you were still taking. Did you always like have a hand pump, or were you like CO2 cartridges for this thing?
I failed at CO2 for a long time. I like just did bad with it, you know, like would just like not do it well. And finally, again, like figured it out. I rode home on so many squishy flats that I just did a bad job. Like, oh God, what am I doing with a CO2? How am I doing it so wrong?
You know, I will say, I think it also what type of inflator you have, because some are more user friendly than others.
Absolutely.
Some are just like you screw it in, just press it down and pray, and just like hope that it goes in the thing. You know, the other thing I learned is you gotta make sure it's not like dirt, because you just like have it in your pocket or your bag and you didn't realize it was dirt, so then go in. And so I have a Lexine. I just got an inflate, a new one, and it has like a turn valve. And
I have one of those. Those are the nicest. It's so user friendly.
Right. Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, get one of these because they're just really easy to use. And if you don't use the whole CO2,
you can keep it
typically lasts really well. It just stays.
Yes. Which is great. So I'm glad that you're more confident fixing your flats.
Yeah.
So it's a good skill to have, particularly as you do longer and longer rides.
Yeah.
Or out in the woods.
Yeah.
Where there's not civilization.
Where there's nothing.
Because I have like a whole list of questions that are just like, not when did you get your, when you were doing your single speed, were you riding it in a cycling kit? Did you have like bike shorts and things like that?
For mountain bikes? Or
single speed gears? So like
track bike?
Right, yeah, the track bike, yes.
Oh, so
you just like street clothes, this kind of thing?
Mostly street clothes.
Okay.
But as I got a little bit more into cycling, I got some kits for longer rides on other bikes.
Okay, all right. Was that a matter of, hey, you should get like cycling apparel for riding, or was it like, was that you made that decision, or like you kind of saw others kind of like? It
was a little bit of both.
Okay. Because
there was a lot of cool cycling stuff happening.
Yeah.
And people were wearing kits, and I was like very kit curious.
Thank you for saying that, by the way.
You gotta remember that one. I wanted to know what it was all about. It looked kind of cool, as like ridiculous as it seemed. It also seemed really smart. And I was not sure that my cycling was worthy of wearing a kit, but I also felt like it could go beyond that. So I had a couple kits. You know, they were old style. Those horrible leg bands, those like remember when they had all the little elastic fibers? They were just so bad back in the day. But you know, you get the pro tips from your friends on like how to pull them up and then flip the thing up so it doesn't rip your legs. And then it just got better and better, and I learned a lot about apparel. And got to talk my friends into kits, and that's how it goes.
I'm not more curious about when the guys get into the kits, because you know, I think ladies are potentially more acceptable of really tight clothing, but it's still a transition of like, I'm gonna wear these shorts and it's like a diaper. Like,
do I look cool? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Nice. So yes, I was curious about when did the kit happen. Thank you for saying
it came pretty quick in there. It came pretty quick in there. And especially once I started riding the mountain bike, they were such short but intense rides that you just get sweaty really quick. And so it's nice to have something to just like peel off and wash. You're just like, you're instantly hot. You're working so hard. You're using your upper body too. You go through creeks, you're riding in dirt. You know, it's nice to not be doing that. And like maybe the shorts that you might wear to work later or something.
Something more dedicated to the riding kind of thing.
It made it a nicer experience. You can carry snacks that way.
But don't think about the pockets.
That was like the whole thing is where are my snacks gonna go? I carry my keys and my phone and my wallet on a bike. without wearing a fanny pack all the time. And
Oh,
with mountain biking, it kind of sucks. It doesn't. Sometimes it's nice to have a fanny pack, but sometimes it's nice to not. 'Cause
Right,
it
to
jiggles
not have
around a
to.
lot.
Yes, I have considered, like, how do I carry less stuff on my body? And I've considered it more in the last couple months because I hadn't thought, when I got the gravel bike, I tried using a camelback because I wasn't trying to do monster cross. I used a camelback because I wasn't confident about doing the gravel, reaching down to grab my bottle. And then I didn't think about, like, the more weight you have on your body is more weight on your seat bones. So I do think more of, like, how can I have more stuff on the bike but not on me?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So either way, but yes, curious about your your kid experience. And your flat. We talked about cycling. We talked snacks. When did you get a bike computer?
I got a bike computer when I started getting more involved in gravel riding. So probably 4 or 5 years ago. You know, technically I had a bike computer a long time ago with that mountain bike.
Yeah.
Nog made wireless computers. Remember I don't know if you remember that company. They made these great lights when everybody was getting into cycling and doing these fun night rides. Nog made like these single LED lights that were silicone, and they would just wrap around your handlebars or around your seat post. And we were doing a lot of rides at night, and you would get in trouble. You would get tickets if you didn't have lights on your bike.
Oh, okay.
Because that's a real rule. And they were pretty affordable, and a lot of the bike shops in town picked them up. So Nog also made a cycle computer that was just super basic. I mean, miles per hour. Like, there was not a lot to it, but it was like this little brick that siliconed onto your handlebar.
Okay.
And then a little sensor on your wheel and a sensor on your fork stanchion. And I got it for mountain biking because I wasn't sure how far I was riding. I don't know that I really knew about Strava. I don't know how old Strava is. It's not like my riding predates Strava, but it seemed like.
I mean, I can look it up at the computer here, but yeah, I feel like Strava's like less than 10 years old for some reason.
Yeah, so it might not have been a thing. I don't really know.
Okay.
And then I got a fancy computer when I started to go more off grid.
Okay.
And I was out of phone service range.
Okay.
And I wanted to navigate on routes that I built. Or routes that I would kind of Google, or not Google, but search on Ride with GPS. And I needed a way to do that wasn't my telephone.
Okay. Right, because the phone can do that, but it's not meant to.
It's not great.
I tend to advocate for, I find, how to put this, having a bike computer is great, right? The usefulness of it. But I do hesitate when I talk to people or mention, like, getting a new gadget, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to you have to pay for the thing, and so I try to be more cautious than, like, it's really good to have a bike computer. Like, do you need one? No, but is it good to have another device other than your computer to route you somewhere, kind of thing, right? That has a dedicated battery for this thing.
Yeah.
Right. So your phone, you can call someone in case of an emergency. So anyway.
I feel you. I was mountain biking in Ithaca, New York, and I probably had a bike computer to clock miles, but also at that point was doing a lot of just starting Strava on my phone and then putting my phone in my pocket and not worrying about it until I would stop.
Yeah.
And I found these trails that I really wanted to go ride. They sounded great, and I went and rode them. I was traveling with friends. Friends were going to go ride skate parks all day, and I was going to go mountain bike.
Sure.
So I peeled off to mountain bike. No phone service. Surprise! I didn't know. I had the map. I pulled up the map of where I was going on my phone. So as long as the page didn't try to refresh, I had an image of the spaghetti splatter of trails. And I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. I'll just make every right until I come back to the car. Well, I get out there and start riding, and there's tons of unmarked trails. And there's trails that the numbers they don't go in ascending or descending order. Ooh. It might be like R6 to Y7 to B8. And so I got lost. And I got really lost. And I rode for probably 4 hours. And I was like, man, I have no phone service. I'm not really sure where I am. I'm supposed to be back at the skate park picking up my friends. Yeah. And I finally got back to a spot that I recognized
Yeah.
and got out of the woods and back to the car.
Yeah.
I showed up. I went and drove straight to a grocery store and bought food, got popsicles, and brought them to the skate park to give to my friends. And they were like, "Where have you been?" And I was like, "I got lost.
Yeah.
I got lost out there." And that's when I was like, "All right."
How far past like your arrival were you, like just like 30 minutes outside of your arrival time, or
couple
like
hours.
Couple hours.
Yeah, like 2 bottles and probably like a bar, you know, and then just rode for 4 hours instead. I was fine, but I was like, it's getting dark. I need to get out of these woods. You know, it's just one of those moments. It always catches you. You like, maybe your phone isn't all the way charged.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're just like, I'm watching my phone dip down to 20%. The sun's setting. I'm not really sure where I am. I'm in the mountains where there's definitely bears, and I'm lost. So it really set the fire to like, hey, you dummy.
Yeah.
Download the map. Screenshot it.
Yeah.
Because then you don't have to pull up, you know. I learned a lot of tricks by messing. You know, you learn a lot.
Trial and
It's
error.
always a learning experience. So.
Mm-hmm. And hopefully someone will hear this and think, you know, maybe I shouldn't use my phone. Right. You know?
It's nice to have that computer.
Right.
The batteries last a lot longer, and then you can download routes to your phone to use offline.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to rely on cell service.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to make it work, and you can have some real fail-safe stuff for when you're out there.
Do you take a battery pack with you sometimes?
On big trips, I do.
Okay. Those are great. I also thought about, do I need to get a separate one of those before I start bikepacking? So you've ridden outside the area. Was there any state that you've been in that just seemed like an awesome state to ride in that you want to go back to?
Georgia.
Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Georgia seems cool. I've ridden a little bit there. Also, Kentucky has some cool stuff. Probably most states, if you really look hard enough, you're going to have a great time.
Okay.
You know, you're going to bring that fun to the table. But
Okay.
I think it depends on the type of bike that you're riding. I really like riding in the desert, and I want to go back.
Okay.
It's a very different landscape than I'm used to.
Okay.
East Coast has shade, and it has water. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
You know, we have humidity.
Yeah.
And, you know, all kinds of other stuff. But
that was just like a totally
it's a
different...
nice change of terrain. It's like a whole different skill set that you'll use.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Okay.
It's just beautiful and different, and you get to learn a lot about where you're riding and the types of ecology and just everything. It's really cool. It's nice to freshen it up a bit.
Okay. All right. I'll keep that in mind. Riding in the desert is cool. Not actually cool as in temperature. Okay. When you go on non-cycling vacations, right? Do you take your bike with you?
I don't think I go on vacations that aren't cycling. I hate to say it, but like, there's always a plot twist to every vacation.
Yeah.
It always involves bringing a bike or going somewhere to ride somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes the vacation is like the subplot. You know, we finished up the Monumental Loop early, and we're really excited because we had like a whole day to hang out in Las Cruces and have food.
Yeah. Okay. Right, because you've already done the epic riding.
That was the vacation part. Was this bonus day at like a kooky Airbnb, and getting a bunch of burritos and just like relaxing before we box our bikes up frantically to fly again.
So that brings me interesting. So after you've done an epic ride, right? Do you say you do an epic ride? It's a Saturday. You put in massive miles or something like that, and you go home. Do you feel you need to ride still the next day, or you feel like, you know what, I've already done an epic ride?
Something has to happen.
Okay.
Something has to happen. It needs to be like a short ride and a long walk.
Okay.
Usually the long rides that I take are punctuated by dog walks. So even after I've done a really long ride, I gotta come home and I gotta take my guys for a walk.
Okay, sure.
So there's always gonna be something like that. And if I've left the dogs all day, they have to do something cool. I have to make it up the next day.
Okay.
You know, so we do like a cool dog adventure. We'll go hike JRPS or like, do something fun for them as well.
Okay.
And that it keeps you flexible, keeps you moving, active recovery, whatever that is. You know, it is what it is. It helps your body just like stay limber and stay warm and happy. Okay. So it's kind of important too. It's a rare day that I do a ride that's so big that I don't want to move the next day.
Okay. All right. Just curious. I don't know if you felt your ride appetite satiated and was like, I don't need to bike the next day. It's just
sometimes.
Like,
You know how the weekends are. If you do something really big, then you've like postponed all your chores. You know, you've got to make up for like groceries and like getting it together for the work week the next day.
Right, yeah.
So that's when that comes in. You know, do like a medium dog adventure or take yourself for a hike and then handle that life stuff and then come at the work week.
Sounds like we need to get butlers.
Yeah.
Right.
Self-cleaning house.
Right. Oh, that would be great.
That'd be cool.
Right.
I would love it.
For some reason, I'm thinking of the robot from the Jetsons. It's like, this takes care of it.
I love robot tech. How about it? I pass this house regularly that has a robot lawnmower, and I love to see it. It is hilarious. It has like a little portal under one of the gates where it puts itself away in the backyard. I love to see it. It's super funny.
I remember looking at one of those. I was talking to a friend of mine about that a couple of years ago, and he definitely likes bleeding edge tech. And I was like, you should not get this. Like, why are you spending this much money? He has a yard is like as big as mine. I was like, you should not get this thing. But he's like also wanted like 100-inch TV or something like that. I was like, God, you should not. Or no, he wanted like a projector with like 100 inches. I was like, don't do that, dude. Either way, so I've seen one of those. I don't like mowing the lawn. So like maybe, like just like.
I love mowing the lawn. Like I'm fine with it, but I also just love really silly gadgets. And that just like always piques my interest. I love it for someone else. I don't really need it for me, but I love to see that other folks have it, and I want to know everything about it. So I think it's a hoot.
Yeah, I put that in the realm of things that make life a little bit more magical.
Yeah.
Right.
You just don't have to worry about it. It's so nice.
Right. You just come back from your epic ride, and the grass is already cut itself.
It's done. And it's put itself away. It's like
that makes it worth it.
House.
I can ride for an extra couple. Ooh, that makes it much more worth it. If you can put in a calculation of, I was gonna have to cut the grass, but I didn't have to. I got an extra hour and a half of riding, and then you do that over the year for all the grass cuts. How much more riding will I get?
How many days do you recoup?
Right, because now the grass cuts itself.
It works out.
Right?
I mean, I can justify it. I'll argue my way into it and back out of it, you know.
If anyone hears this and they have like a self-driving, like legit parks itself mower, please let me know.
Let us know. We want to know everything about it.
Right. It's your non-cycling vacations, which we want to extend, so we need to have our lawns mowed.
Yeah.
How did the pandemic affect your cycling?
Ooh, it got weird. It really changed.
Okay.
I was doing these super long rides, and you really couldn't. It didn't feel socially responsible to go out on some of these big rides, and so I had to wrap my brain around finding joy on the bike at 25 miles. And that was hard.
Okay.
That was a hard one.
Yeah.
It changed it a lot. It also made rides with friends incredibly high value.
Yeah.
And so it changed a lot, actually. I was really into really pushing myself to go faster on long rides. I wanted to hit faster averages over longer distances and was just really kind of doing that a lot. And then when you weren't really supposed to land yourself in the hospital doing anything dumb, you know, in the height of pandemic when like nobody was vaccinated, nobody was hanging out, like you had to really play it safe and smart.
Yeah. Okay.
And having to rework your brain to like have the same happiness buttons pushed on a ride. Sometimes I'll fight a ride the entire way and I'm 90 miles in and my brain is still like, we're gonna think about all this stuff, and I'm like grouchy and weird, and by the end of it I'm grinning ear to ear, but it's taken 90 miles to get there. I feel like it takes me, like I'm not really warmed up for 20 miles.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not comfortable and settled in for the day until I'm like whatever amount of miles in, and that's when your ride ends.
Yeah.
You're like, I just have to really rework this. So it really reshaped and restructured rides for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Finding joy in short rides was difficult, but it became a thing, and it really sort of changed my priorities about whether or not I was going to push it into some of this more endurance racing stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Or whether or not I was going to place more value on sharing time with other people in space. And that's kind of what I shifted towards. And it's like trickling out now into this weird way where like, I don't really think I want to race. I still kind of like the idea of it.
Yeah.
But I really prioritize and value spending time with people and sharing a lot of information and time on a bike. And it shifted a lot.
Right.
Things change all the time. It'll change some other way soon, I'm sure. But that's kind of, it's...
Right, yeah. There's ups and
weird.
downs of, and then you ride with different people, kind of thing, right? All that changes.
You meet different people in other states, and it's really nice to be able to see them. There was a time period where you weren't sure if that was really going to be your future, was just staying home all the time.
Oh my God, yeah.
And riding with the same 4 people.
Right.
Or like who you were allowed to
right, yeah.
visit.
Your safe
are you
bubble.
the high risk one? Who's the high risk one? Like there was a lot of stuff. It changed a lot.
Now I'm like, I don't recall. Do I recall anyone that was in the circle, in the circle that I would occasionally be around during the height of the pandemic that I felt was high risk?
Oh gosh, I worked at a store that was open the whole time.
Yeah.
So I was not only with the public, with folks that I didn't know, but then other people who just are living their lives differently than yours. And so what I wouldn't do, maybe they would do. Right. And I just had to swallow it. Yeah. And you learn to accept a lot, and let a lot go. It's a weird time.
Yeah, because you were at the store, retail, right? Yeah, and so I asked the question of how did the pandemic affect your riding, because it touched everybody's lives in different ways. And I'm aware that you were, right, people were coming into the store. You don't know what they were doing, right? You all were taking the precautions that you could, telling everyone else, hey, while you're here, take these similar precautions. Yeah. I'm sure someone was like, maybe I'm not going to do it, right? I'm going to be a douchebag about it. Douchebag is the word I'm going to use. About not following the protocols while in somebody else's store. But I'm glad you made it through it.
We did it.
Right? Yeah.
Here we are.
We
Look at
figured
us.
it out. We figured out how to navigate it.
And
Yeah.
And it was a weird time in everybody's lives. And we all trauma bonded, and that's okay.
Right? Yeah, that's not the kind of bonding.
It's not really the kind you want, but it is what it is.
But we got through it.
We all, everyone felt a little bit more invested, maybe.
Yeah. Did you have to change any ride plans? Were there any, I was going to do this big thing, and, now it's weird.
I was headed to do a big, gnarly, dumb desert ride.
Okay.
And COVID shut it down. I was supposed to go in March of 2020. And it slammed the door. I was training for a 500-mile ride in the desert around Tucson that went over basically every mountain peak around Tucson. And it was going to be a really scary and wonderful time. Yeah. And I had worked super hard getting into a state of fitness that I thought that I could kind of handle that style of big elevation for 5 days, 7 days in a row. And that didn't happen.
And then pandemic shut that down.
And then it shut the door real hard, and I stayed home. And you just redirected it. I thought about it long and hard, and there were a lot of other rides that still happened. And it didn't feel right. I didn't want to sit with guilt. I wanted to enjoy a trip and not feel any way. Okay. And I did later in the year go on a backcountry tour. It was 3 days in West Virginia. Yeah. There was a lot of discussion amongst people as things changed over the years. There was a lot of cautionary rules, like the 1 tank of gas rule. Where you're not supposed to travel further than 1 tank of gas.
Oh, okay.
To ride.
Oh, okay.
If your trip isn't a tank and back, out and back in 1 tank, you probably shouldn't do it. Okay. That was I read a lot because I was searching to make sure. I just didn't want to mess anything up for other people. Yeah. What if you're the dang idiot that brings COVID to a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, folks that don't have the same resources as the city.
Okay. Yeah.
So like if I was going to go do an off-road tour,
Yeah.
I needed to see no one for 3 days, and I needed to ride within my bounds.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
And drink from a stream.
I did.
And drink from a stream.
I ate
Okay.
raw apples off a tree and drank from mini streams, and I rode a lot of single track, and it was a really cool time.
Awesome. I'm glad you were able to to navigate that and still get to do the things in your comfort zone, during that time. 'Cause that was just like weird time.
It was weird.
Yeah.
I was lucky that my friends were really open to dialogue about it, and friends in other states were too. So it was a great check, because your friends, your tight-knit group of friends are all going to feel the same way.
Yeah.
But maybe somebody in North Carolina doesn't feel the same way.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell you.
Right.
And so it was like a great open conversation between people and what was socially responsible. And it was a great way to kind of check yourself. Like, am I being a dummy planning this trip? Is this actually going to be smart and safe?
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching COVID rates dip a little bit. Is this the time to go? I think it is.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's a great value in discussing that with others, because individually you could be like, this is going to be fine. I know what precautions I'm taking. And then someone said, well, have you thought about this? Like this other thing, what happens if this happens? Kind of,
Yeah. It's good. Your friends will sometimes be a bit of an echo chamber, and that's not a bummer. That's just the reality of it. So it's great to have folks that you can lean on in other places to just sort of what are you guys doing? How would you feel about this? Does this seem okay?
Yeah.
So it's a good check.
In that vein, has there ever been a ride, not just the pandemic, right, that you were like, I think I would like to do this? At any point, was there anyone who was up like, maybe you shouldn't, maybe you should do something a little bit different? Has there been someone who's like, maybe you shouldn't do X, Y, and Z? Or has it just been
there has been some good advice dispensed, but also people have been really wonderful about trusting how stubborn I am to finish something.
It's just don't tell her no. Is that what
stubbornness plays just as much a part as fitness sometimes.
Okay.
In some of these rides, if you're gonna find a way, you're gonna find a way. If you're gonna have to do it, and you're gonna have to ride all night to get there, and you're just gonna do it. Once you learn how to fuel your body well and just keep it moving, you just own your decision and do it. So it worked out well. It's worked out well so far. A lot of people encourage a lot, which is cool. Some folks aren't super encouraging, but sometimes that just fuels the fire a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah. So it was a naysayer. I got to do it anyway now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And not in a dangerous way, in a whatever. I used to date this dude a long time ago who told me I didn't have the fitness to ride Forest Hill Park on a mountain bike. He was like, don't even try. You don't have it. And I was like, oh my God, okay, it must be gnarly in Forest Hill Park, right? I didn't even try.
Yeah.
I was just like, it must be crazy.
Yeah.
There. And then I was just like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to go see what it's like. And I was like, how dare he say that to me?
Yeah.
Who does he think he is?
Sorry to cut in here.
Even
if Forest Hill Park, because if it was gnarly ramps and things even if it was, it's so small that even if you weren't you were a brand new rider,
walk out.
Right? Yeah, you can leave, or it could be oh yeah, you'll eventually be able to do it. It'd be training, right? It's not an even if it was the most gnarly, it's only so big that you would definitely be able to train up to. So either way.
So I tell you what.
Yeah.
It's always a good reminder to watch your verbiage around other people.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's just something I just think about and laugh a lot.
Yeah. Naysayers and things like that can be
that's a weird one.
Annoying, but motivation nonetheless. That was the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And riding around. Who taught you how to ride a bike?
I'm sure I learned when I was a kid, and it was probably my mom. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. When I was a kid, I had like a scooter, and I would just rip it on the scooter.
Scooter. Wait.
Like a push scooter.
Oh,
Yeah, like a
yeah,
push scooter.
Yeah.
It was the 90s. They were cool. They had mag wheels. I was like ripping it on a scooter.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what it was.
Have you been? I mean, you've not been on one of the scooters in here, right?
Not yet. I'm waiting. It's gonna happen. I'll take a scooter ride at some point, and I'm sure I'll laugh the whole time, and I'll probably crash, and I'll probably take it off road, and it'll be a good time.
Try it out of town. Right?
Yeah.
Because here you're commuting around. That's your mode of transportation. But if you went somewhere else, try the scooter while you're out of town somewhere, because I'm sure they exist.
I see people doubling on them all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, that looks wild. Kudos.
Have you tried the city bikes? The that we have.
I think
the
I've been on
rideshare?
one once.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have bikes. What am I doing?
Okay. I tried them once as well. It was a failed attempt to get my niece and nephews to ride with me, but I'm just curious if you tried to use them. I'm gonna ask this one too. How do you feel when you see other people riding their bikes?
Super stoked.
Yeah.
I wave at everybody. I
Yeah.
smile and I wave. And it's
Yeah.
like a measure of a good ride when enough people wave back to you.
Right. Yeah.
No matter what they're doing. If somebody is like head down, they're dying, they're on a TT bike, I'm like, hey. It never fails. I'll say hello to every single person I pass, just like a dummy. But I just love it. I love to see it. They can be riding any bike.
Awesome.
I've seen people on beach cruisers, on mountain bike trails, and I'm just like hyping them up. I'm like, get it, keep pushing, go. I'm going to hype them up no matter what.
It's good to be encouraging. It's good.
Yeah. Everybody needs somebody rooting for them.
Yeah. And then they're like, I should have a beach cruiser on the mountain bike trails.
This wasn't so bad. What if I got a mountain bike? It just like goes from there.
Right. I can see that going away.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole crap ton of things I'm sure we have not covered. What's something, if you could go back to you on the track bike, right? And like younger Emily, like tell her something about your riding experience, or share something, like what's something you'd want to tell a younger version of you about the riding that you.
Probably something akin to just like keep doing it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Okay.
Like that's, whether it's long miles, whether it's a bike packing trip, whether it's buying a new bike or whatever, just do it.
Okay. That's
something
solid.
in that same vein.
That would be solid advice. Is to stay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Did I miss anything? Is there something clearly there's things that I did not cover. Like, there's just no way I can encapsulate all your whole life of
Everybody's
cycling.
got so much cool cycling stuff.
But is there anything you want to share? Anything? Any tidbit? Like, clearly.
Not really. I think we talked about all kinds of things today.
I know, right? So many things.
The whole gamut.
Right.
All of it.
I suppose I'll have you come back then. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Wait. Where are you working? Let's go over that.
Oh.
Yeah. Let's go
Well,
over that.
now I work for Bike Walk RVA.
Okay.
I work for a program that's cycling and pedestrian focused.
Okay.
One of our big projects is making sure that the Fall Line Trail comes to fruition in a really great way, in like a high level, top-notch, world-class way.
Okay.
So I've
fast.
worked at a couple bike shops, and now I'm working just a little differently with it.
Okay. All right.
Still very involved, but now super neutral.
Right. You can work with all the groups. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Thought I'd make sure we plug that.
I'm excited. It's a really great group of folks there.
Yeah. Awesome. I thought I'd ask about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think I'm gonna have you come back at some point. I don't know. Like, there's gonna be something.
There's always something
like
kooky happening.
That.
I tell you what. In February, I'm going to Florida to ride Huracan. It's like a 360-mile off-road loop. I'm riding it with some wonderful and hilarious friends. We're gonna do like 100, 130 miles a day for 3-ish, maybe 4 days.
Okay.
And we're going to do the water crossing at night. If you Google that race, you'll see a lot of people wading through water.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit scared.
And you're going to do that part at night?
In alligator country. I'm a little bit scared. It'll be fine.
Completely fine. Yeah.
They won't want to come near me. But, if something touches me in the water, I might explode out of my skin. So maybe we follow up post-hurricane.
Yeah, that would be, oh my God, that seems just impractical, but.
It's going to be really wild.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yes, we'll follow up and see how that goes. Either
I'm
way.
already laughing.
Emily, thank you for sharing your story, and coming on the show. So I appreciate you sharing your time.
Of course. Thanks for having me. It's a hoot.
Awesome. Thank you.